On this edition of Dan Shonka's Scouting Section, with the Ohio State-Michigan game taking place on Saturday, we felt it was a good idea to get Dan's take on the best position battle of the game that will take place in the trenches, as our lad's top-rated senior center Billy Price goes head-to-head with our lad's top senior-rated defensive tackle Maurice Hurst. Dan will also tell you who else to keep an eye on in the game from Ann Arbor, as the OFN Scouting Section with Dan Shonka on the Our Lads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017. I'm Greg DePalma, and you're listening to the Our Lads Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft. And, Dan, we have some huge rivalry games on Saturday, including Alabama-Auburn, Ohio State-Michigan. And before I get your player breakdowns, I have to ask you if you have any special memories of scouting players in this particular Ohio State-Michigan rivalry.
Well, you know, there's every year these rivalry games, those are the games you like to break down because, hey, if you can't play with intensity in those games, you know, and play your very best, then, you know, you wonder if you're worth your weight in salt. So, you know, over the years, last year, you know, Michigan gets beat, but there was, you know, we had 10 guys in the East-West in that game, and they played great, you know, but it wasn't quite good enough. One play, you know, Barrett makes the first down, and the game was over. Michigan didn't get the ball back, and after playing really a pretty solid game, but you know, you know DeMonte Thomas liked him last year, and he's made it for Denver as an undrafted free agent. And but you know, Gideon this year is starting for Minnesota, and he was an inside linebacker there, and for Michigan, and really did a nice job. And you know, so then of course Ohio State had tons of guys in the game last year, and they. You know, Lattimore, for instance, is playing well down in New Orleans. And so, you know, they're every year, you know, when you get those games lined up, and then, of course, this year Auburn's got a few more players than they had a year ago. And then Alabama, they don't have as many. They always have a lot, but they don't quite have as many top-rated guys in the early rounds as they did last year. But, you know, Minka Fitzpatrick is there, and Harrison, another safety. And, you know, but last year they had Cam Robinson, a left tackle, who's been starting, you know, for Jacksonville and everything. So, but those rivalry games are tremendous. And, like I said, you can't get better play than when you're studying the rivalry game football.
What did you think about Desmond Howard? Because Desmond seemed, of course, he had a tremendous college career and came up with some big moments for Michigan against Ohio State. And, you know, maybe did he get overdrafted? And do you think he got overdrafted because of what he did in the big spotlight games?
Yeah, no, there's no question. No, I did, Desmond. I went to the University of Michigan for the Eagles then. When Desmond came out, he definitely was overdrafted. You know, the Redskins drafted him as a receiver, and his big thing was a return guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a good receiver, but he wasn't, you know, like, I think, would he go like third or fourth or something?
Yeah,
I mean, way high,
yeah.
You know, in the draft. That wasn't him. But what he was is an excellent return guy. And, of course, even, you know, when he went to Green Bay, he returned one of the Super Bowl to kind of clinch it for him, you know. So that was his big thing. Yeah, he was definitely overdrafted as a wide receiver. I don't think there's any question about that.
All right. Let's get started, first of all, on the Michigan side. Dan, your top-rated defensive tackle, Maurice Hurst. Hurst has right now 56 tackles, which is a lot for defensive tackle. 13.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks at this point in the season. And on your big board, you have Hurst as a 23rd best player in the draft. From reading your profile of Hurst in the Our Lads NFL Draft Preview brochure, would I be wrong in saying that the best asset Hurst could bring an NFL team would be his speed for the position and his ability to pressure from the interior?
Well, quickness would be the thing. Yeah, I tell you, he's got explosive quickness. I mean, he comes off that ball and he's in that gap, and you know, he's that under tackle kind of guy that that's a one gapper. You know, and he's very disruptive, but his first step quickness is excellent. And then he's got a burst once he gets by the block, getting upfield and pressuring the quarterback. So that would be his biggest asset, Greg, is explosive quickness.
So far from what you have seen from him this year, has he lived up to what you've wanted to see from him, considering this is the first year he's been a starter?
Yes. I was very happy because he was always a rotate guy at Michigan. In fact, last year when, I was studying all the Michigan kids for the East-West and things like that, and for our lads, Hurst was a guy that we were going to invite because he was a senior on their list. And then, I got a call from Coach Harbaugh there at Michigan, and there's 3 guys last year that I wanted to get for us. And then they found out they had all 3 guys coming back, and that was Mike Mcrae, outside linebacker, who this year he probably hasn't played quite as well this year as he did a year ago. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, he's a 6'4", 240-pound guy that can really run and lock up on tight ends. And then there's those 2 guys, and the other one was the big fullback, Khalid Hill, who is a multiple a guy that can play. He came in there as a tight end, but they put a fullback last couple of years, and I think last year he had like, I want to say 15 touchdowns or something like that,
Yeah.
So, but those 3 guys, excuse me, all end up coming back. So I guess I'm a pretty decent scout.
I would think so. A little bit more than decent. You say that he projects as a 3 technique in a 4-3 scheme. Is there any other alignment on the next level that you could see him as far as teams get drafted?
In a nickel package, some teams might put him on the nose, to pressure inside. So he might be the kind of guy that doesn't have to come off the field. He'll be in the rotation, but I think that's a bit because, he's only around 6'1", maybe and change. We don't have a verified on him yet.
Yep.
And, 290, 288, somewhere in there. So but his explosive quickness is his biggest asset. And
okay.
So, yeah, I would think either that, be a nose and a nickel, with a 3-man front, for instance, and or being that under tackle in a 4-3.
What does he have to do a better job of to become more of a force at the next level?
Well, I think what you want to see, he probably needs to gain a little bit more weight and strength so he can take on double teams things. But his thing is he does a great job of slipping blocks, and then he'll stack up, and then he can really bend and get low, and those are all good things. But, you can't get too strong to be in the NFL in that defensive line, and so he could, use more strength.
Is he a better pass pressure player than he is a run defender?
He's a better disruptor.
Okay.
He's one of those kind of guys. Yeah, he's kind of both. He can rush the passer from the inside, which those are rare guys.
Yep.
And then he also, can knock off the run, and when they slant an angle, and he just does a great job of, pushing the ball. He'll fill the gap, and then the ball carrier is forced to go east and west, and that's deadly for a ball carrier. Generally, then your pursuit and everything will, make a tackle for a 1 or 2 yard gain.
All right, now he's going to go up against, and we hope we get to see him go up one-on-one against Billy Price, who's your top-rated center. Price now moved over from guard to play center full-time for the first time in his career this season, the same way Pat Elflein did, his former teammate who was drafted by Minnesota last year. In the brochure, you mentioned that Price's timing and angles were off. Was that, do you think, just a product of the switch? And what are the chances that he does get drafted to play guard instead of center?
Yeah, well, I think that center is such a premium position, and now, he can do both. So that's going to be his value. He can play either guard or center, but, I think whoever drafts him will probably want him to play center. And, but now that he's been in the position for a while, we saw him early when we put out our preview. He played center, I want to say 3 games or 4 games. And so he just had to, get his steps right, flatten out steps, or cut the guy off, get his head in front. And, sometimes he was behind. And so that was the big thing. The timing and angles were just not there early. as he's gone on, and he's always done a nice job. When you're pulling, folding from a center position, it's same as like a guard.
Okay.
You pull around and you'll fold and block a linebacker or what have you, or and he did all that really well as a guard. So, and he's continued on as a center. So I think that that's what he'll probably end up doing, being a center first, but his value will be a multiple purpose inside guy.
Now, again, as I said, I really hope we get to see these guys match up against each other in this game. So if you see them matched up and you see them going one-on-one with each other, are you going to be looking for anything in particular?
Well, I know one thing. Price better get his head across in front quickly and get his foot and his head, which has got to move at the same time, get that lead step to cut off Hurst, because Hurst he's sitting there in that gap just waiting for that ball to twitch, and he's going to explode right through that A gap. And so that's the big thing. And then, Price better hope he doesn't get any holding calls by grabbing. He's got to make that quick cutoff, and sometimes that's awfully tough to do, on a guy as explosive as Hurst.
How now, since you rate Hurst as a better player than Price, as right now, I think I said, 23rd overall, where do you have Price right now, do you think?
Oh, Price would be in second round.
Okay.
He'll be an early second round guy. So,
just like Elflin.
They'll match up head up, and Price. If he gets his hands on Hurst now, that's a whole different story. Although Hurst does a nice job of ripping the hands off and things like that, or chopping them, karate chop them off when he's coming through. But Price gets his hands on that inside breastplate and frame. He'll have that advantage and win.
Yeah, and this will be the only time we'll be able to see them go one-on-one, because even when they're in the Senior Bowl, they'll be on the same team. So they will be on the same team, right? Senior Bowl, yeah.
Well, you know what though? Yes, but you'll also get a chance to see them in practice one-on-one, because they're going one-on-ones, which they do every day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a great chance to see them.
Okay. All right. So before I let you go, plenty of other 2018 NFL draft talent playing in the game, including up front, where Michigan has your third-rated senior center prospect Mason Cole, who plays left tackle right now. While on the flip side, the Buckeyes are loaded up front on defense, led by Tyquan Lewis. He's your second-rated senior defensive end who has 21 career sacks, and a couple of underclass prospects to keep an eye on, both listed in your top 15 on your current draft board, and Sam Hubbard and Dramont Jones. Matter of fact, two more seniors are going to get drafted, in Tracy Sprinkle and Jalen Holmes for Ohio State, which is incredible firepower for the Buckeyes up front. And that doesn't even include sophomore Nick Bosa. So first, tell me about Cole, though. Why do you list him as a center? And then we're just like we were talking about with Price. I got to imagine this is going to make him a pretty valuable lineman if he can play anywhere along the front.
Yeah, he can play all five positions in a pinch. And last year, when he was a sophomore, he was a left tackle, starting left tackle, and everything. And so they moved him last year to center because they needed a center to direct things out there, and he did really a nice job at center. And then, they lost through injury a left tackle and or two, and so they moved him out there because they need him to protect the backside. And they felt that he was their best offensive lineman, so they moved him to left tackle. So, but I think in the NFL, like you said, his value will be his versatility, and he'll go in and start for somebody at center.
Oh, where do you have him? Where do you think he's going? Third round?
I think that, he could possibly slip into the bottom of the second.
Okay.
But, I think right now you'd say he's a third round guy.
Now, as far as Lewis, Hubbard, and Jones, and it's very rare that you can get three guys this talented. Now, this is if Hubbard and Jones come out that are on the same team. And, boy, it just makes you – and we heard how much Greg Schiano gushed over this defensive line before the season even began. So what makes Lewis, Hubbard, and Jones elite-type players?
Well, the thing that Hubbard is just number 6 is just absolutely relentless in his pass rushing ability, and he was that way last year. I think this guy's a war dog, and he's a pressure player. He's a disruptive player. He gets those hands up when he's coming off the edge. He's got a great first step, and so I think that and they play in a rotation like Holmes rotates behind Hubbard, and he'll go in behind Lewis. That's kind of a three-man rotation. So, even though Holmes is listed as kind of a backup, that's really not true. You can't start three of them, so the two of them got to get this name and starting lineup. But he's every bit a starter as the other two, and Holmes might not be as strong as Hubbard in his combination, the way he works his hands and things as Hubbard is, but you put him in a wide nine, and he's really a good pressure player. Lewis has been doing it for 3 years at Ohio State, and they've got to really put the pedal down here in the gas the next couple of weeks with Michigan and then Wisconsin, and who knows if that front controls the game. They'll have a shot at the playoffs and everything, the Final Four. But I mean, it's a long shot, but it's going to be dependent, on that group up there, because they can control the game. They'll have a chance.
Is one of those players that you like over the other for any particular reason, whether it's upside or you just have a feeling about them, or are they all pretty equal?
The guy that I like when I'm studying tape is 86, Draymond Jones. He jumps out at me. 6 does. I mean, don't get me wrong. And see, this is why you got to look at film like 3 different sections of the season, early, middle, and late, because Holmes kind of started out slow, and then he kind of picked it up later. Lewis the same way. He started picking it up in the middle and did some things better.
Mm-hmm.
Draymond Jones is just, a defensive tackle that plays hard every down, and I studied him in his film last year and then his film this year, and he just, he's just a relentless kind of, well, they all are relentless. I mean, Sam Hubbard's absolutely relentless. Jones is relentless. Tracy Sprinkle is a blue-collar guy that stuffs things up inside and then bounces it to the people to the outside, like the Lewis and Hubbard.
Okay.
So, so Sprinkle won't get drafted as high as other guys,
sure,
but I think Draymond Jones could be a big-time All-Pro kind of guy when he gets to the NFL, if he stays healthy,
Okay, and by the way, for Michigan, Chase Winovich, he's tied for the team lead with 7 sacks. He's got the team lead 16 tackles for loss. How does he fit in at the next level? Is he a situational, third down guy? How does he fit in?
Well, he's not real big. He's in the 250s, and here's the other thing. He might be coming back because he's kind of the same boat as those 3 I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
That I said I was watching them, and I thought, man, I'd love to have those guys, and then they end up coming back, and I think that he's got another year.
Yeah, he does.
So,
yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's listed as a senior, but I believe he's got 1 year of eligibility left.
Okay, and by the way, I hopefully, of course, and I would expect Higdon to come back as well. I think if he it took him a while to become the number 1 running back at Michigan, but he's clearly their best running back. And I'd like to see him as a full-time guy next year and see what kind of player he can be. He's got some really good talent, the running back from Michigan.
Oh, absolutely. And, I don't know if you'll ever see him as, that
bell cow,
a workhorse guy.
Yeah.
I think, Harbaugh will rotate because hey, you're recruiting all those guys, and they deserve to play too. And I think he'll rotate, 3 back.
All right, Dan, I appreciate your time as always, especially on rivalry week coming up in these big games. And enjoy the games. Happy Thanksgiving. And next time we talk to you, it'll be another week closer to the end of the regular season. And then, of course, that means the All-Star games will be here before we know it. So once it's Thanksgiving, that must be your cue, right, to really get going.
Absolutely. And happy Thanksgiving to you, Greg, and to all our listeners out there. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Dan. All right, that's Dan Shonka, and that'll wrap it up for the Our Lad scouting section for the Michigan-Ohio State game. Of course, there were a lot of other players we didn't talk about, but hey, we just didn't have any time. We'll definitely be talking about all the players coming out for Michigan and Ohio State when they declare in the next couple of months. So that'll do it. We'll see you again really soon here on the RLAD Scouting section on the RLAD's Football Radio Network. Don't forget to check out a subscription of your choosing at the 2018 RLAD's NFL Draft Preview brochure that's out. And also check out the draft board for the top players, including the ones we noted on the show today. And once again, thank you for tuning into the RLAD's Football Radio Network, where it's never too early to think about the NFL Draft.